Hello and welcome again to my channel. My name is Jenifer Taylor and I'm in the little market town of Melton Mowbray in the county of Leicestershire in the United Kingdom. And I am very excited, combination of very excited, very kind of like emotional too, I must admit, and to speak to my next guest because the way our paths came together was via my chat with Thomas Sheridan. And David was watching the video and then he found me on Instagram because I put my details on my videos. And I responded, I don't know what you call it now, but I followed back, and David's videos that he on Instagram, I have just found so inspiring and so uplifting. When I listen to him talk, I'm sat there, I'm nodding my head, and what he says just resonates within the whole of my body. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, I need to talk to you. And then one day I just had this overwhelming thought, right, reach out to him, ask him. Like whenever I ask people to talk to me, I'm like, oh, what if they say no? And I reached out and said to David, would you come on my YouTube channel? And he said yes. And then obviously, because like when you follow my channel, I've also spoken to Fiona and Tina. And then about a few weeks ago, because I love listening to Tina and Fiona, I noticed that they interviewed him and I thought something really weird is going on here. Something really weird. I think our paths were meant to meet and they meant to meet for a reason. And I've asked David to come along tonight because when he talks about the divine feminine and the divine masculine, I just think we need to hear what he has to say and hear his thoughts on this. So what I'm going to do is hand over to David so he can introduce himself and his background and where he is at this moment in time. And then we'll just take it from there. So David, over to you.
Thank you, Jenifer. It's a pleasure to be on your show. And I love Thomas's work, Fiona's work, Tina. They're all great people. So I'm glad to be connected to this circle and be talking to you today. Brief background about me. I'm Scottish and German descent. My parents were, my father was a Mason. My father was also Scottish Rite in the Masonic Lodge. And my mother was Eastern Star. My mother came over from the Scotland, migrated to Appalachia, so she grew up in the Deep South. And a lot of those beliefs in the Deep South, Appalachia root work, folk magic, it's embedded in me. I'll go into that a little bit later, but that's just to give you like a foundation. My father passed when I was 17, so it was just me and my mom, and did some crappy jobs to survive. In 1985, I got involved in the Church of Satan. I was there for 3 years. It's okay. I thought it was very cosmetic. It's very sanitized. They're atheistic in their beliefs. They don't give the devil his due. It's basically Ayn Rand and Nietzsche, kind of like with devil horns, which I'm not saying anything negative about Ayn Rand or Nietzsche, but it's basically, it's not really Satanism. It's more of just a atheistic cult. So in 1988, I left and joined the Luciferian order. And from 1988 to 2012, I was involved in that. Now, I'm not going to name the order because the last 3 years when I left, things diminished. It got very politically correct. See, Luciferianism is a little different, and I'm not advocating for it. I'm just going to speak on it. Luciferianism is Promethean. It's the individual reaching the highest pinnacle of their being in terms of, focusing on their will, focusing on their purpose. It's very intellect-based, As a Luciferian, it's funny, I know more about that. I knew more about the Bible than most people of faith did. Because it's about learning about other religions and other beliefs and putting into like a cohesion, again, under one's will. So the reason why I left the order is because when it comes to like magical orders or beliefs, exclusion is as important as inclusion. See, when you have a group and it's just extremely inclusive, you diminish its value. It becomes just a club. There's no parameters, no boundaries. And that's what happened in 2012. And that's when I left, because it was basically just falling apart and I didn't want anything to do with it. But prior to that, I also had a crisis in 2002. Simultaneously, things began to fall apart for me. I'm a retired DOT officer, but within a period of 3 years, I lost my mother. I wound up having some health issues, wound up seeing the order that I was involved in diminish. And it was basically a dark night of the soul for quite a while, for about 7 years. So I know what it's like to be at the pinnacle, to be at the top of your game. And then to spend literally 7 years in an abyss, drinking on painkillers, just literally wallowing in misery. And then you have to ask yourself that question, when you begin to lose everything. I've talked about it before in my videos. Am I going to die here? Is this it? And I was like, if I don't do something, I'm going to die. So with the collapse of the order in 2012, I didn't know what I was going to do. So I literally started hitting the streets thinking, well, in order for me to be effective, I have to see what I can do to help others, I knew gangbangers, drug addicts, people in the Luciferian community. And I started hitting the more, they call it the ghetto, the hood, on West 25th here in Cleveland, areas like that. I was working with the Latin Kings, the Swing on Sight family, and putting up flyers and just reaching out to what you would consider and this isn't being judgmental, it's a reflection of culture, the drugs of the world. And I started reaching out to these people and working with them. Started working in my house, doing it, I'd have them at my house. And it built up to the point where the average Tuesday, I would have 60 people in my backyard. And I had some sponsorship, I always had purpose. I was doing something. I was teaching about God, religion, the occult, whatever reach I could get towards them, to connect to them, to help them. And having addiction issues myself in the past, I was able to, connect with them. So I was at the pinnacle in 2020. They were going to get a building for us, had sponsorship. And a month later, the event happened, if you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And I saw literally 10 years of work flushed on the toilet.
Wow.
And I said, what am I going to do? And it got rough because I'm like, okay, I'm a very driven person. So if I don't have purpose, I don't do well. So couple of the young people in the group that were still coming, because I could have like 4 or 5 that would show up without, having issues, said, you need to get on social media. So 2 years ago, I started posting their art on Instagram. It was just an art page. And then one of the girls in the group said, why don't you just talk like you do to us? So I said, okay, we'll give it a whirl. And I just started talking on Instagram, and it was weird at first, and then I got kind of a handle on it. I'm still working my way through it like everybody else. And I'm basically doing the work that I was doing in my backyard, but reaching a larger audience. So Thomas Global Media picked up on some of my work, and we started talking in January. A very good group of people. They want to make a difference. It's a network channel. And they reached out to me, and I went out there in May, and they want to set me up with a podcast. And I said, yeah, let's do this. So I've literally spent the last 5 months of my life getting my house ready for sale. And I'm going to be out of here in 3 weeks and going to Georgia and hopefully be able to reach more people and help more people.
Where did this wisdom come like when I hear you speak, it's so fluent, it's so beautiful. Where did this wisdom come that comes from you?
Wisdom is just a matter of, like with me, I screwed up at levels that cannot even be measured. So what is wisdom when you get older? Well, how can I take all this screwing up and all these mistakes I've made, and how can I help others not to make them? I didn't learn from getting it right. I learned from getting it wrong over and over and over again to where you're like, this isn't working anymore. You know, it's like in magic, if you're doing the wrong kind of magic, one day you wake up and you go, wow, my wand isn't working. Nothing's working. So you begin to learn from that process. I learned from the 7 years that I lost in my, just wallowing in alcoholism. I learned about loneliness and despair. One of the main things about the group that I was doing was nobody sits alone. So that's one of my pet peeves. I can't stand for people to be alone. And it's not because, I'm a good person. It's not a good guy badge or nothing like that. It's a matter of, I know the terror of being alone. So if you have one person that you can connect to, if you can make a difference in someone's life by just reaching out to them, that's being effective.
Yeah.
That's when I talk about, I returned to my old beliefs in like 2013, 2014. Along with doing the outreach work, I started doing the old, folk magic work, the type of work that was in my blood, in my ancestors. Scottish, Germanic work. See, the one thing about, like, I know I'm jumping a little bit here, but the one thing about like Appalachian magic and folk magic is nature is viewed as a friend.
Yeah.
So it's reconnecting to the all, nature, returning to those organic things. And that's the work I've been doing in terms of magic for probably about 10 years now. And like I talk about some of the tools, railroad spikes.
Oh, right.
Iron is protection against evil spirits, against dark spirits. I talk about the railroad spikes. I have one wherever I'm sitting. It reminds me of my focused will, true will, iron will, not moving. And with the spikes, I always tell people, if you want to use the iron spikes, get them from an actual railroad.
Mm-hmm.
Don't get new ones. You want it to where that kinetic energy was going over the spikes. The people in the train arguing, fighting, talking, celebrating, whatever they were doing. And it goes into these spikes, that energy. And they're kinetic and they're powerful. Like down south in Appalachia, you'll see like some of the old root workers, they'll actually hammer spikes around their house in each corner outside to protect from evil. Same thing with, salt. Salt is protected. So there's a lot of, in the old ways and the old practices, it's the connection to nature, connection to, we would say, the divine. But it's also, this is something too, because you got to watch when you use this language, you get a lot of they'll say the Abrahamic cult, that mindset. Well, Appalachian root work, folk magic, it's old, it's very old. Like the Bible that was in my grandmother's house and my Maymaw great-grandmother's house. That was the altar. You kept the family pictures in there. You kept your memories in there. When you would go to speak to, when I go to speak to my grandmother, I've talked about her influence on me. Walking into her kitchen, and she's making sweet potato pie. And she knew how to work with herbs. Everything she needed was in her yard. She knew these things. And walking into her kitchen was like an absolute magical temple. You were calm. You were loved. You were fed. I mean, when I was in Luciferianism, I was in some really powerful, you could say, ritual chambers, we'll use that term. but nothing touched my grandmother's kitchen. Same thing with my mother's kitchen, because she carried the energy of her grandmother, the love, the energy, the connection to the earth. So those type of practices are what I do now. And also, to a level, quantum magic too, where, believe as if, act as if, become as if. So it's a practice I try to do daily, but I think a lot of mistakes that people make when it comes to their magic or their faith is they overthink things. Like when I want to think about the will, I got this book when I was 18 years old, Thus Spoken Zarathustra by Friedrich Nietzsche. That helps me to focus the masculine part of my psyche, the masculine will. And then the feminine part is the root work, the folk magic, the balance, to keep things balanced. So any questions? Because I can keep rambling.
For listening to you, I'm absolutely speechless. Because I was in your grandmother's kitchen. This isn't something, listening to you talk, this isn't something that you picked up on anyone else. This is your life experience. This is what your mother, your grandmother has instilled in you. And like we all do, we go on a journey and then we come back to our roots. And you've been on that journey and you've come back to the roots and the roots of your mother and your grandmother and the connection to the earth and the herbs and the old ways. It's within the center of your being. And it's just humbling to be in your presence, to hear you talk. So one of the questions, the one thing that I wanted to talk about is like a little bit about me is like I stumbled into that new age scenario, and then I came out, and I think I speak on behalf of everyone. We're all searching for the old wisdom and the old ways, because through schools, through religion, through life, it's been, for a better word, stolen from us. Like, I wish my great-grandmother was here that I could talk to and speak to her. And I wish my nana was here that I could talk to about her upbringing. But so many of us want to know that old wisdom again. So can you now go into that? Because you spoke about in Instagram, where I can't remember which post, but the divine masculine and the divine feminine, because in relationships, they're both needed in a relationship. Like the divine masculine has his role and the divine feminine has a role. And when the two come together and connect, that's where the magic, the alchemy occurs. That's where it should be. Does that make sense, my question?
Well, let's look at when you're dealing with the profane, because this is how it started. When I talk about darkness, I'm not talking, darkness is not evil. People are into death metal, they're into heavy metal, they're into darker art. That's not evil. That's just an aesthetic. Goth. That's just an aesthetic practice. The profane is when you go against natural law. All dimensions, all universes, everything comes under natural law. Everything. It's the 7 Hermetic laws. Nobody escapes it. We cannot outpower the 7 Hermetic laws. We cannot outthink them. We cannot outsmart them, because we did not create them. Whether you want to call it, God, the all, the source, whatever term you want to use, natural law came from that. So when you talk about natural law, you look at the profane mindset that came in 4 years ago. You always look at what the, quote, profane is attacking the hardest. Well, what did it attack? The masculine and the feminine. It attacked what it means to be a woman and what it means to be a man. Because if you strip that away, everything collapses. In natural law, everything has a polarity. Everything has a masculine and a feminine side. So if you disrupt that, again, everything falls to waste. So when you're dealing with evil, the profane, you have to look at what's being attacked. So a woman, when I talked about my grandmother, my mother walking into the kitchen and cooking, cooking is high magic. Cooking is putting love into something that's being consumed. The heart of the house was the kitchen. See, I live in a house. This isn't a home. The woman makes it a home. The kitchen is the heart of the home. It's the heartbeat. It's where all the nurturing happens. So when you are doing food and you're creating food and you're cooking and you're decorating, you're doing these things, it is filling the atmosphere with the divine feminine. Now, what did they attack? They attacked that. Oh, you mean you want them to be, sitting in the kitchen all day? You want them to be in the garden? You want them to be decorating? Is that what you want for women? No, that's what women want for women. They attacked that. They attacked that nurturing essence of what it is to be a woman. See, putting on a dress, if I put on a dress, I'm not a woman. I'm just a fat guy in a dress. It's not a costume. It's an essence. So they attacked that. Then being a man, what it means to be a man. Well, a man is designed to provide and to protect. A man will lay down his life for who's in that kitchen. He will lay down his life for that woman. He will lay down his life for that essence, because that's what he's designed to do. So what do? You diminish masculinity. You start effeminizing men. You start calling them Nazis, intolerant, using those terms when they start to act like a man. And that feminization begins to destroy the psyche of man. And then all of a sudden, women begin to feel unsafe because they have to compensate for his weakness by channeling that masculine energy. And then they become neurotic. Diminishing these roles was not an accident, it was deliberate. This is black magic. It's diminishing our actual organic roles. The lie that was sold to women, well, you need to go out into the workplace and work for somebody else. You talk to most women, they despise it. They want to take care of their home, their pets, their family. They want to build that environment that reflects them. That was a lie that was sold to women. And like you'll see men, when you talk to men, I can't stand it when guys do this. You're talking to a guy and he'll be talking about his wife or girlfriend, he'll go, well, whatever the boss says. What the hell are you talking about? You can't lead, so you have to put that role on her, and you think you're helping her? That's just more stress. So then you reduce it down even more. And this is not to diminish. Women represent chaos. And that is not a negative thing. Everything is birthed in chaos. You see a woman having a baby, it's not very orderly. They want to kill the guy and everybody in the room. It's chaos. Don't ever touch me again. It's screaming, it's pain, you're giving birth. That is chaos. That is the feminine. A woman will be thinking about 50 things at a time. The nephew's birthday, getting the house done, her makeup, the way she looks, what she's got to do tomorrow. She has the list. They're multitaskers. That's a feminine essence. It's a powerful gift. Men, We're good for thinking about one or two things at a time. We are tactile. We are more of task oriented. So then you have the masculine, which represents order. So when you have order and chaos balanced perfectly, that's where the power grows. You know, I've talked to women when I'm doing counseling, and you'll see where, you know, she'll say, when I want to go out to eat, I'll ask him what he wants, and I'll go, well, what do you want? She doesn't want that answer. She wants you to make a decision because she has enough things on her mind right now. She needs you to help her to make a decision. It helps to structure her psyche and to calm her. So what have they done in the last 4 years? They've eroded all of that. And the idea of getting back to natural law. You are going to see this year going into 2025, the balance begin to return. It's going to return because it always returns. It always corrects. It's been like that since the beginning of time.
Yeah, I've heard that 2025 is powerful and also 2026 is powerful, and it's the return of the original birth and codes. So that would be like the pendulum swings from one to the other, and now it's swinging back into that balance, isn't it? Where the masculine and the feminine are in balance and in harmony. And so let me have a little think about this. So looking back on the last 4 years and listening to everything you say, is there some sort of power that's kind of like invaded, or is this just part of the natural life cycle?
It was definitely a clepothic, profane spirit. Thomas Sheridan hit the nail on the head when he was talking about it was something out of a Lovecraft novel.
Oh, yeah.
And he's right.
Yeah.
It was ushered in. It was allowed to come in.
Yeah.
And it fed on fear. It wasn't accidental. This was a black magic spell cast over the earth. And people bought it.
Mm.
And since it occurred, and I believe this firmly, half the people in the world have not returned from the spell. They have chosen fear. They have chosen neurosis. They have chosen slavery. They rather have the false narrative of security and safety over the danger of freedom. And you will see it. You'll go in the grocery store. You'll see people just walking around in the haze. They're driving like they've never driven a car before. They're parroting the narrative. They're not thinking originally. You know, the art is a reflection of the culture. Look at the garbage that's considered art now. You know, that's a reflection of the culture. So now you're having a pushback because you have the other half of the population of the world that are going, we're done with this garbage. We're done. You know, we're going to go back to basics. Basics. Men being men, women being women, building lives, building communities, building tribes, doing art that actually matters. You know, I've seen you doing art. It's actual art. You know, it's not just a bunch of scribbles on a piece of paper stuck up in the Tate Gallery for $2 million. Because if they diminish art, they diminish beauty also. See, like one of the most rebellious things a person can do right now, two of the most rebellious things they can do: project beauty and project strength. Do something artistic, do something creative, project beauty. Because the profane narrative, it hates beauty and it hates strength. You know, when I talk about beauty, that beauty in terms of like when I spoke about my grandmother's kitchen and my mother's kitchen, there's beauty there. There's essence there. There's also beauty in art where it's done, you know, very appealing art, very beautiful art, classical art. Strength, you know, diminishing of men. You can't tell the way they're built right now, some of these men, you can't tell men from women. You know, the low testosterone, the weakness, the supplication to the weakness. And at our core, we get even deeper with this. Men are designed to crave and protect beauty. Women are designed to crave strength.
Mm.
They crave it. When they are in the presence of strength, they can flourish as a woman. They feel like they can just expand out. I'm safe. I'm safe to express myself. He makes me feel safe. He makes me feel loved. He makes me feel protective. And what does she want at her core? She wants to know that the guy that she's with is willing to lay down his life for her. So she will take care of him because of that, because he's acting like a man. Men don't go to war for their country. Men go to war for their women and their children. When that's threatened, that's when they go. It's the way we're designed.
It's really getting back to the fundamentals, isn't it? And do you think enough people, well, yeah, like from my channel and the people that like leave the comments, it is that we're all wanting these old ways back again, aren't we? So do you think it's enough to break that black magic?
The way you break the black magic spell is just to do it, yes, because you are pushing back in your actions. The one thing, like when Thomas Sherb talks about protesting does nothing.
Yeah.
You're running up and down the street with a sign yelling, no one cares. They're laughing, they're mocking you.
Mm-hmm.
But when you live your life parallel to the narrative, and you are living your life according to natural law, you are impacting the environment around you. It's like, okay, when it comes to magic or to faith, when it comes to these things, you have to be it to a degree before you are it. If you were the artist, if you were the person that you wanted to be, how would you be acting right now? If you wanted to live in that world, how would you be acting right now? You would be acting like you are living in that world. And that puts a ripple into the quantum realm. And that affects this black magic spell. And the one thing that even in black magic that they have to do, they have to get you to agree with it.
Mm.
You had to agree to put on the face diaper.
Mm.
You had to agree to be afraid. You had to agree. They told you, we're going to make you wear a face diaper, bubble suits, six feet apart, and you will agree with it. It's when you begin to say, I don't agree with this. I'm done. See, you are your magical circle. You are your circle. Who comes in and who goes out, that is up to you. And the only person that could come into your magical circle or go out is what you agree with.
Mm.
I mean, the narrative's always going to try to terrify people. They're always going to be projecting the next threat. You know, if you say this, if you do that, it's just threat. It's just words. And people agree with the threats. They agree with the spell. And then it takes them over. You know?
Because that's one of the things that I truly love about Thomas. Like I always say, he's a very down-to-earth, grounded Irishman. And the one thing over the years of listening to him is he said, like, you focus on your own life. And, you know, and one of the things that really struck with me is being content with what we have. And listening to you, you just resonate what he says. And it's humbling to hear, because it's straightforward and simple. It's like just getting on with our own lives and creating the magic, and boundaries too, isn't it?
Boundaries are vital.
Yeah, because I look at some of the young girls and their boundaries, they don't seem to have those boundaries of, do they?
Well, it's tragic because they've come in agreement with the narrative. Remember, the girls that are walking around, and I'm not judging them, a lot of them probably
No.
don't have fathers. A lot of them, the male figure in their life was probably garbage. A lot of them were probably abused as girls. Okay. So they don't have any concept of the masculine. And then what is projected on social media? Those aren't men, those are boys. Those are adult boys. They're not men. So because the adult boys want that, the women, in place of acting like women, are acting like adult girls. It's to keep them locked into adolescence, even when they're in their 40s and 50s. They're locked into adolescence in their 20s, 30s, 40s. It's a spell, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And I guess the boys too, it's like, where are their, role models? Where are their, live up to and aspire to be, where's that all gone?
Well, you'll see these fitness influencers. And it's always these guys that weigh like 180 pounds, 190, and they're showing their abs. Okay, well, abs is something that boys want. But a man that's going to protect a woman, big arms, big wrists, big neck, and doesn't give a crap about his abs. Odin didn't care about what his abs looked like. He cared about what he could do to protect those around him.
Mm.
So it's what they're projecting. It's adolescent behavior.
Yeah.
It's the diminishing of men and women again, and falling for the narrative. Well,
Yeah.
everybody's doing it. Well, everybody can also be insane.
Yeah.
And when it talks about your true will, sorry, I just want to make sure, because this is kind of important. Your true will, your true purpose is what you are designed to do. So again, going back to, and I'm not saying this is for everyone, but my grandmother, my mother, being a homemaker, taking care of the family, cooking, providing a nurturing environment, loving doing that. That's her true will. That's high magic. I got a young man that did some electrical work for me. I watched him work in the house, how fast he did it. He was impeccable.
Mm.
That's his true will. That's high magic. He's doing his call. Not like these LARPer druids going out in the woods, dressing up in costumes, thinking they're doing magic. No, they're just out there dressed in costumes, acting like idiots. You're doing your true will right now with this channel.
Thank you. Thank you. You've thrown me there. It was something that you said, like spirituality, like it's such a buzzword, and yet you said in one of your or I'm going to call it podcast, you said go to that person that is on their own and go and spend half an hour with them, talking, making them a cup of tea. That's true spirituality. And it's caring for those in our community, the ones that are on their own. That's where you're working your magic, isn't it?
Well, it's in terms of creation, God, the universe, whatever you want to call it. It's a mirror. What you put into the mirror comes back.
Yeah.
It's that simple. It may not happen overnight, but and again, it's not about like being a false good guy. It's not what it is, or a good woman. It's not about that. It's about, okay, I'm feeling alone, I'm in pain, I'm depressed, I'm hurting. Is sitting in my house, laying on the front room floor, because I've been there, crying out, going, what am I going to do? Is that going to work? Well, you'll get some stuff out of your system emotionally, but it's not working. So what do? I feel alone. I'm in pain. I am suffering. Make someone else feel less alone. Make someone else feel less alone. Even if it's like the simplest thing, tipping the waitress. You're in the line at a cash register and there's some people in front of you and they're giving the cashier a bad time. She's a rookie. She doesn't know what she's doing. and they're giving her a bad time, and you go up there and you're kind, just kind, and say thank you and please. Now you're generating some powerful, powerful karma for the future, because you are showing that I am here to help. I am here to heal. But with that, I'm also here to protect. We have a lot of bystanders right now. You'll see me go on my rants like at least once a week when I see somebody walking down the street, a woman being punched in the face, slapped in the head, and they post the video and everybody's watching. Why are you watching? Why are you filming that? Why aren't you stopping it? And I understand if you're a woman, it's more dangerous, but you'll see men there watching it. There was a video 2 weeks ago of an elderly couple walking through Friends, and some animal walked up and yanked the baby out of the buggy and slapped the baby. And the one woman's yelling, "Hey, stop." The guy grabs the baby and just starts running. No, that's profane behavior. How do you deal with the profane? You destroy it.
Mm-hmm.
So you're here to heal, but you're also here to protect. I understand as a woman, it's more dangerous. You have to be more cautious. And that's another thing too, the last 4 years. The world has become unbelievably dangerous for women.
Mm.
Why? Well, because you have very few men, but you have a lot of males that are spectators. I mean, if that would have been my baby, and I'm pushing in the carriage and somebody got up and slapped the baby, that would be the last time that person ever did anything.
Mm.
Lights out.
Mm.
When you create laws and rules that restrict the protection of those you love, those laws are meant to be broken.
Because I remember when I was came back to England, I was 18, and I'm not saying like in a very like, oh, in my day. This was back in 1985, and things were changing drastically. But a lad would never speak rudely to a girl. If two lads were having an argument and you stepped in, which I did do, they would just instantly back down, and you know, like, so I've seen a drastic change in how young girls back in 1985 were, and the young lads, and then slowly it's just really crumbled and broken into like what you're saying now. And I said to you at the very beginning of the video, I'm not going to talk about me. I'm listening to you. Can we go slightly off? How did you meet? How did you come across Thomas Sheridan?
I started watching his Vons in 2016.
Oh yeah,
His Velocity of Vows.
yeah.
I thought he was funny. He had charisma. I like him because he's real. Not bells and whistles. He's real. He's what a true magician is. He doesn't wear costumes. He doesn't, he tells it like it is. And he doesn't really care if you like what he says or doesn't like what he says. Do I agree with everything he says? No. But do I agree that he's in line with natural law? Absolutely. But when he was doing those videos from his car, he started doing them in like 2020 during the events. Those videos resonated with me a lot because I was thinking the same thing. Sit in his car talking about, this is evil. This is horrible. Why are we putting up with this? I was thinking the same thing. Why are we putting up with this? So it's his charisma and his authenticity. And again, charisma is being who you are. Like, here's one of the things that kills charisma. It's absolutely annihilates your charisma. Justifying yourself. Well, Jenifer, why are you doing this thing on YouTube? Why are you doing art? Why are you doing these things? And then you begin explaining. No, I'm not explaining nothing. I'm doing it because I like to. And if you don't like it, then don't watch it. But I'm not going to justify to you why I like to cook or why I like to shoot guns or why I like to do the things I do. I do it because I like to. And if you don't like it, cool. I say the same thing about my videos. If they are helpful to people, I am grateful. Thank you. If you don't like them, I don't care.
Mhm.
See, it's that justification that diminishes your charisma. So that charisma is being the state of who you are and being unapologetic. It doesn't mean that you're ignorant, but it's being unapologetic. It's that thing where like I despise passive aggressive people. I despise white knights, the good guys. I'd rather have you be, excuse my language, I'm gonna try to be clean this up. I'd rather have you be an honest asshole with me and say, I don't like you, than to be passive aggressive and say nice things backhanded.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah.
Because that's your charisma. You're being who you are. You're being who you are.
I work in a nursery 2 days a week looking after babies, and I love the ones that are so sassy and just be who they are, and they say as much as babies and children can do, like, "No," and they just be their own selves, and I just think, "Yes, let's nurture
Yes.
this. Let's nurture this," because the ones that are as good as gold, it's just like, "Oh, please, come on." And the ones that just break the rules, go running through just to cause destruction, I'm just like, "Yes." And I just wish we at the nursery, we had a school where we could just keep educating these children to be true to themselves and, follow their own path and allow their charisma to build up because, I think schools apart from home educating children is very dangerous because it's like knocked out of them and that's what prepares them for adulthood, so we just like become zombies that just go through life agreeing. And you're right. You're so right, like my and it's so typically English. It's like when you mentioned my art, it's like, oh, forgot you looked at my art. Well, and the natural law, it would say be true to yourself. But society and this black magic, let's call it black magic, because that's what it is, it taints us and makes us question ourselves, and it makes those little kiddies and those babies with the sassiness conform to the rules, and it's got to stop.
Well, I mean, public education is not educating. They were
No.
designed to create factory workers.
Yes.
The little boys, you get a little boy in a classroom, and girls could be a little more agreeable, a little more, but you get a little boy in a classroom, he starts acting out and throwing stuff. Well, you've had him sitting for 5 hours.
Yeah, boys are not
Then you
designed to
say,
sit quietly.
well, you have to put him on medication. No, he's being a boy. You've had him sitting for 5 hours.
Yeah.
Honestly, classrooms, it should be cut in half, and they should go back to where the second half of the day where they're doing communal gardens, they're doing things outside, they're creating, they're doing art. There should be no more than 2 or 3 hours of whatever educating there is, and then let them work with their hands, let them go run around, let them get some exercise. And then to keep them more indoctrinated, they send them home with homework so they can have more rubbish to put in their head for another 2 hours. They're not educating anybody. They're just creating factory workers.
Mm.
That's why I know it's brutally difficult for people. I get it. But if they can homeschool, do it.
Yeah, agree.
Teach the kid for a few hours and then take the kid for a walk, let him go play outside, let him go have recess for 2 hours and run around, and then bring him back in for another half hour. He doesn't need medication. He happens to just be a boy.
Yeah.
She doesn't need medication. She's hyper. She has sat for 3 hours now. She's tired. She wants to go run around.
Mm. Mm.
They're not educating anybody. They're destroying their spirit. They're destroying their soul. And they go into academia, which is nothing but factories. and you have somebody coming out with a 4-year degree that is completely stupid. You know, it's like, when did common sense become magic?
Yeah.
It's just common sense.
Yeah.
But now it's esoteric. It's magic. No, it's just common sense.
Yeah. So, and it's, oh gosh, this is what I love about talking to you. And it's like things like Thomas always said, that like building up your charisma, building up and focusing on being you and true to that's the magic. But yeah, we can go down that path of like we have been like programmed and become these factory workers.
Because we came in agreement with it.
Yes. Yes. Do you
If
think,
you do this, we'll make you feel safe.
yeah, do you like, when I look back on my school years, luckily I went to I was educated in Australia and also in England. I was never the brightest of the buttons, you know, like arithmetic and spelling is not my strong points whatsoever. Art I loved, always loved art. English, writing stories I love. Do you think when you haven't got that really academic brain, that's why you kind of like, because you see people, don't you? Do you think that's why people like myself haven't fitted into those square pegs that they wanted us to fit into?
We make the mistake of thinking academic is educated. All you're doing is recycling data.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm a professor. I read this book. Now you read this book. Now you spit this book back to me. Now you get a piece of paper to stick on your wall because now you have a degree.
Yeah.
You're just recycling data. You're just recycling data. There's no creativity. There's no wisdom. You're just spitting out data. Nothing more.
Yes. And when we look at the lads that go down the road of like bricklayers, plumbers, electricians, they are
Vital
the
jobs, by the way, vital jobs.
yes, they're the trueness, aren't they? They are the brightest sparks. They are the educated ones because they have that imagination, they've got the tools, the mindset to create amazing feats of, whereas like the ones that can regurgitate facts and figures, they're not creating the life. I'm aware of the time, and I know we can speak. I could speak to you for hours, and I won't go into the folk magic. But like we said to you, we were going to keep this kind of like short and sweet about the divine masculine and the divine feminine. Is there anything else you would like to add? What would you? And listening to you speak, I would say it's like we've got to be true to our roots, true to the divine feminine and the divine masculine in us. Is there anything, you know, I wish I'm just going to send people to your Instagram page because you just give these nuggets of stuff that, you know, you could just listen and then go away and go, yeah, I'm going to implement it. And when you implement what you say, my gosh, there's changes in our life.
Okay, we get into this mindset of how much can we do? Like, I've got enough books, they're boxed up in the garage now because I'm going to be moving. But I've got enough books, if they fell on me, they'd kill me. Okay?
Yeah.
So what? So as a Luciferian, I've read piles and piles and piles of books. I got books all around me. So what? I had a woman, and you know, Luciferianism was very intellect based. It was very intellectual based. So I had a woman ask me last week. I was talking to her, intelligent woman. She actually works with animals, you know, animals. She works with rescue animals.
Yeah.
And she says, I want to get into magic. I want to know this. I want to know that. She goes, what should I read? She goes, what should I read? I go, well, first of all, magic books are only designed to sell magic books. You're going to learn nothing from them. So she said, what should I read? I said, well, you want to think in a magical universe. You want to open up your consciousness. I said, read The Hobbit. She goes, what? I said, read The Hobbit. I said, because it's going to put you into a magical, spiritual mindset. And you will think more magically. Read The Hobbit. She goes, what else should I read? I said, tell me when you're done with that. We'll take it from there. See, we overthink these things. You know, when I held up that book and showed it to you, you sighed. Why? Well, it touches the magical part in you, the child in you, the freedom in you. That's a parallel society. That's what The Hobbit does. That's magic.
It is. It is. I always get this image of myself like that woman that comes out the lake with the white hair, and she chooses between evil and good. She's got that choice down to her, and she decides for the good rather than the gain of the ring. And then there's that whole conversation about this reality and the magic of this reality, but that's a whole different conversation. So yeah, I would suggest to everyone read The Hobbit then.
Read The Hobbit. Go in nature. Don't go in nature with an agenda. Don't go in nature with your incense. Don't go in nature with all your magical stuff. Go in nature, shut up, and go for a walk. Take a cup of coffee, sit on a bench, and enjoy nature. It's all this agenda when it comes to faith and magic. It's like, that old Southern saying, and old church folk used to say, "Shut up, God, I'm praying." It's like, no, you need to shut up. If you are doing what your passion and purpose is, and you're not harming others unless you're protecting those you love, then you're living high magic, you're living faith, you're living in your purpose. It's that simple. I mean, Fiona, she's a specialist. She does astrology. She's a specialist, which is fine too. But that's another thing we need to do also is, and I'm not pointing the finger going, people need to, I'm just saying, I need to do more. I need to do more. No, you need to do less better.
Yeah.
Do less better. There's a place 4 miles from here where I live. The woman makes pies. She doesn't make lasagna. She doesn't make pizza. She doesn't make chicken. She makes pies. Started in her kitchen. Now she makes a fortune. Why? Because she does less better.
Yeah.
You don't need a lot of things. You need to follow the 1 or 2 things you love to do.
And yeah, it's because I said to my friend about that, I said the one thing I absolutely love the most from the last 4 years, because I was a therapist, and I am going back actually on different terms. But the one thing I love the most is my YouTube channel. I don't get paid for doing it, but it's the one thing I love. I love talking to people like you. I love listening to your thoughts, your opinions, what you have to share, your experience, your wisdom. And that's the one thing that really fires my belly, is just listening to people like you talk. And it's the one thing I never set out to do, but stumbled into it.
When you're living out your purpose, you'll see it doesn't come overnight, but the things you need will show up.
Yeah.
Okay, they will show up because you were living out your purpose.
Thank you.
When people chase money, money is just a tool. It comes and it goes. When you chase purpose, money chases you. Opportunity chases you. It shows up. It may be like one of those things, like a couple of weeks ago, I was talking about, I had a craving for a sweet potato pie. I like sweet potato pie. And my neighbor stopped at Walmart, and she bought me some paper towels, and she goes, "I thought you'd want one of these." And she bought me a sweet potato pie. No, I said to whatever you want to call it, God. That's another thing too, is to be thankful. Whether you call it God, creation, the universe, be thankful.
Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate that. It's those little synchronistic moments that we diminish, that we should say, just take the time and go, thank you.
Yeah.
I'm grateful for that.
Because those are the real magic moments, aren't they? They're phenomenal.
And when you're feeling like, here's another thing you can do too. And Thomas talked about it, but there's others who've talked about it too. They want you to feel compacted and broke and sad and alone.
Yeah.
So you treat yourself once a week, even though when money's tight, to that cup of coffee and that pastry that you like. And you leave the woman an extra couple bucks or the man a few bucks tip. You act like you would if you were there, if you had the money. And you, through that generating that generosity, you're saying to creation, there's always going to be more.
Mm.
You know, when you're a hoarder, or when you hide things, you know, these people prepare for the apocalypse, you know, 3 months of food, they're always going to wind up broke and the food's always going to rot. There's nothing wrong with having the pantry for you have food for a couple weeks in case, you know, there's a storm or something. But you have to let money and prosperity flow through you. It's not supposed to get to you and freeze. It's supposed to flow through you. And then you keep that circuit open.
Yeah.
They want us to be compacted. They want us to be afraid. They don't want us to give. They want us to second guess.
And that's one of the fundamental things that because I'm learning about, well, I say paganism, but it's just the way our ancestors lived, and it's about this. The natural law is about what we can give, isn't it? It's all about giving and giving and giving, but not in that way. It's like giving that person. It's like going to the local coffee shop, isn't it? And buying that coffee and giving the tip, and it's just simple acts that are more powerful than the big charities. So,
Well, like Odin sacrificed himself for wisdom, because wisdom is the most powerful thing you can have, is wisdom. He sacrificed for wisdom. So when you're going to that coffee shop at a lesser level, and you're giving extra money when you might be a little broke, you're sacrificing.
yes,
It's the same thing. That's why there's a lot of people in the profane that hate Odin. Well, they hate Odin because he is whether you believe it's an actual being or an archetype, he's the archetype of the true primal masculine.
Mm-hmm.
That's why he's hated by the profane, because he's living out his essence. It's the same thing with Freya. She's hated because she's living out her feminine essence.
Yeah, Freya means a lot to me. Thank you so much. We need to do a part 2 and a part 3 and a part 4 and a 5, maybe part 6. Thank you for your time, for your energy, for what you've had to share, and it's really touched my heart tremendously. So thank you, David.
It was a pleasure being on your show. And when I get it set up in Georgia, I'm going to have you on my podcast.
Thank
Okay?
you. Yeah.
All right. Be blessed and thank you for your time. I enjoyed this.
Thank you. I'm going to finish the podcast by saying goodbye to everyone too. And I'm going to put all the links to your Instagram. And so from Melton Mowbray in the county of Leicestershire, thank you so much for being here tonight, this evening, and listening to my conversation with the amazing David. I've learned so much. I feel so humbled. Like I said at the very start, it felt a very emotional place for me to be tonight because I have high respect for David. So thank you from Melton Mowbray, and until the next time, lots of love always. Take care.
Bye-bye.
And I'm just going to end it.